All right, we got Mike Salemi here, one of my good friends and a regular guest on the show at this point. How many times has it been? You've only been on like 2-3 times,
We've
but
podcasted, I think 3 times. Yeah.
3 times, and the first time was complete shit. So we tried to do it paleo effects. The sound engineer said that all the stuff was working, and we're like, okay, good. And then I had him send me the audio, and it was not. It was incorrect. It was bad. It was bad.
That was too bad because that was an epic call. We were both hooked up to what were we hooked up to while we were doing it?
We had IVs. We had these guys that were pumping our vein. Like we were straight dripping nootropics into our veins. It was like, so hey, Mike, you want to get dialed while we're up here? And then they gave us a drink. It's like, take this pill, drink this shake. As we inject stuff into your vein. It's I don't know. All I know is that when those guys stick needles in me, I feel good.
I think that was the first time I met you. Like, you down for this? I'm like, okay, let's go, bro.
Yeah, 10 seconds in the meeting. Do you want to have these guys just poke us and prod us? Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. If you don't know who Mike is, he how do I describe you? You're the most likable guy I've ever met, and you're also amazing with kettlebells, and you're an amazing coach. So your ability to teach other people is super high level. You're one of the guys that when you get in the front of the room and you start talking, I start listening. So that's I've met some of the best coaches in the planet, and so the ones that can draw me in, it's a good sign. We've been working together. Was it last year you attended the summit, the Strong Coach Summit, and we've been working together since then. And you're launching, because you're in the mastermind. I'm not like your business partner, but I'm coaching you on the business thing. Tell us about what has happened for you this month, or in the last, I guess it's been about 6 weeks now. I don't know. When did it start getting crazy? About a month ago? What month is it? Are we in May?
I was going to say, I think we're going for 2 months almost. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so we're about 6 weeks in. So the whole world got flipped upside down. And you're one of those coaches that you were doing a lot of stuff in person, but also building online. So this was really a gift for anyone who was even dipping their toes into the waters of being online. And you already had online offerings. It's not like this was new to you, but you had a new thing you were going to offer. How did the last 6 weeks really impact your business, your launch, all that stuff?
Yeah, man. No, it's interesting. Like at first it was a really hard hit. Like I had 9 workshops, which was, I would say, even though I have online stuff, like most of my income comes from live certifications, workshops, all that stuff. So I had 9 workshops all canceled. So like the next 5 months, everything canceled within like the first 6 or 7 days.
And so the majority of revenue vanished.
Done. And so as each one's canceling, as I'm following up there, I'm just like, all right, this isn't so bad. And then next one cancels. This isn't so bad. The next one cancels. And once you get to about 8 or even 5, you're like, okay, some pivot needs to be made. But I've really seen this as a massive opportunity. It hurts in the beginning. Like that really sucks. And, it's partially scary, to be honest, to have that much of, 70% of maybe my income gone. But I will say, working on Kettlebell Lifestyle, which is the current online program, and also, like, to be honest, like I check the news every now and then, but I have not really, like, I've been locked in this office, like just putting in work. Like, I think I've watched 2 Netflix movies the entire 6 to 8 weeks we've been in quarantine. So I've kept myself so busy with that and just gone all in. And it's definitely like, I'm really starting to see it pay off as we prepare for the launch in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I got a peek inside the kettlebell lifestyle. Well, I got more than a peek. I logged in, I looked around, I went through the surveys and all that, and it's beautifully made from a user perspective. It shows that you care, that you put a lot of effort into that, amongst all the other things that are in there. So did you build most of that while we were in quarantine, or was a lot of that built before?
No, it was pretty much all in quarantine. All in
Mm.
quarantine. Yeah.
So you've been putting in the work.
Yeah, it's been, and once we get this launch, I'm gonna definitely take a solid week off for damn sure because I need it. But it's been it's been hustling, you know, and I've been as good as I can be about taking care of myself because that's super important too. But you know, there's definitely been I feel like I'm back in college. I was telling my friends like I haven't pulled all-nighters since college, I think. And I've
Yeah.
definitely had a few of those the nights before like the next phase rolls out. But to be honest, man, like we did our first group coaching call, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, I think we were having a conversation about group coaching. So, in the group coaching call, like the testimonials and the results that people are getting legitimately just from the on ramp phase, just from the freaking on ramp phase about creating your personalized stretching routine, working in active meditation, rebuilding the body. Just those testimonials, literally on the first coaching call, I started crying out of joy, just seeing people's experience on like week one. And so the testimonials have been crazy in people's experience. And that's what's really been supportive. And so I'm almost at the end. I just launched phase 2 today. So I got one more phase to input, and then it's like, then it's a little pause.
What caused you to be so motivated during this time? So I'm hearing a few different reactions to everyone going to quarantine. A lot of people freaked out and said that they were just going to wait until things ended to make the next move. Um, a lot of people just didn't know what to do next, so didn't do anything. A lot of people did a lot of stuff that didn't need to get done. They just kept themselves busy. But you seem to have hit the nail on the head, and that not only are you extremely busy, but you're doing things that matter. Is there what has motivated you? What would like to pull all nighters like the first time since college and things like that? Are you like, oh shit, I'm gonna run out of money, or are you excited, or what is it?
You know what? It's 100, like almost 100%. Like, and I say this is humbly, like, I feel like people like me and people like you, for example, were like built for this shit. Like,
Yeah.
this is like the environment is such that the people who have something good to share and good to help people with, like within 3 days of going to COVID, I told my community, because everyone's just putting out so much negativity and so much just crap. I was like, screw this. I'm going to go live for at least 30 days every single day. And the intention was 15 minutes. It ended up being sometimes 2 hours. And it wasn't just workouts, it was meditation, active meditation, breath work, training instruction on every tool, like way more than just workouts. But like, it was such a fulfilling thing to do. And it really, like, it was, here's the thing too. The feedback was amazing, but dude, it was honestly as nourishing for me as it was for them. I don't have anyone in the house, right? So, and I just had to give back my dog to my brother, so now I'm really lonely again.
Oh no.
But I'm in the market for a dog. But you know, it's like I had a lot of time to reflect, and like it just felt like a responsibility to do something if I had the opportunity to do something. So stuff like that. And then the other thing too is not only just to help the world in this time with what I've learned and what's worked for me, but dude, like I'm so fucking hungry to change the game. Like I want to change the game of how personal trainers are viewed today. In my opinion, like the name, you can call me whatever you want. Strength coach, performance specialist, personal trainer. I really don't really care about the label. But what I will say is personal training, at least in my experience, doesn't have like the credibility that it deserves. And like, so like I want someone who, let's say, takes kettlebell lifestyle, takes any of my stuff, that legitimately they have the life experience and the ability to create change at the level of, let's say, like a medical doctor or something like that. Like, I want to change the game of how personal trainers are viewed and completely increase the standard. Because I mean, think about it. Like, you see your doctor once every 6 months, once every year or whatever. You see your personal trainer multiple times a week. You know, now whether it's virtual, you probably can see him even more.
Yeah.
But so I'm just hungry just to make a difference and do something special. And like, the time right now, it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about that. Like medical doctors have a ton of credibility, right? They go through years of medical school. They do residency. They have it's really, my impression of, I've never been through medical school. I have friends that have. My impression of medical school is it's more of a rite of passage than anything. A lot of tradition built in, similar to the military in a lot of ways. For instance, residency, they get very little sleep, which is typical. And the only reason, when they ask doctors why they put so much hours on the people in residency, it was like, well, I had to do it. So like, suck it up type of thing. So we have a bunch of tired doctors, but I bring that up because there is this standardized way that medical doctors go through a system that puts them in these lab coats, and then they get a ton of credibility. And I don't know about you, but the only time I go see a doctor in a lab coat, something got fucked up, and it's already like past the time of heading it off ahead of time. So like, two parts is you have this whole credibility thing of medical doctors because of the standardization of their education. That is, there's government involved in that too, that adds that credibility. And then usually when we see doctors, we come to a doctor when we're the most fearful. Something is wrong. We're making something wrong about ourselves and we're afraid. So when we see doctors, what's really typical, and we witnessed our parents do it, is we gave them a lot of power. So instead of doctors aren't very good, the way the system's, I'm not saying it's about them, but the way the system works is they get their ability to have a good conversation with a client is very low because they've got minutes to meet with somebody and all that. So we really have a system that's a little fucked up, because we have all this credibility given to someone for various reasons when they don't really have the ability to service the client appropriately. But then you have the trainer or the coach or the personal trainer that doesn't have this standardized education, and also isn't going to treat people after they're already very, very sick. However, what they know is way more valuable to an individual, because if you were to follow Mike Salemi's advice, if I come to you as a 30-year-old and I start following your advice until I'm 80, more than likely I'm going to skip a ton of doctor visits and all sorts of other issues and surgeries and whatever that someone else who only listens to doctors gets. So I think it's so important what you're trying to do, what you're doing is so important, because it really is impacting the health of the entire planet.
Dude, that's so true. Have you seen the movie The Motivation Factor by chance?
Mm-mm.
Dude,
No.
okay. It should be, I think it's gonna, I just started watching it. So, or I just watched it recently from one of my clients recommended it. Amazing movie. So what it is it's essentially a documentary, really well done. And it covers I think it's La Sierra High School in California. And it looks back into, I think it was the 60s or so. This was right before Vietnam, more or less. And essentially it looked at the physical education system of that particular high school and middle school. And there was also correlating middle school of these kids and their strength and conditioning coach or their teacher, like what these guys had to go through. They had different like ranking systems, different short colors, like indicating different levels. Dude, can you just take a wild guess? Now there's a whole series of tests, physical tests. Just what there was one test was you have to carry someone on your back and you have to walk a certain distance, right? So you have to carry a classmate. Take a guess how far they had to walk without setting them down.
30 feet.
Totally reasonable, right? I was thinking like 30 feet, 50 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is I think it was the blue level or whatever, like their higher level. 5 miles, bro. 5 miles. These are kids. These are kids.
They could put them down?
No, could not. They have to tread water for 2 hours, bro. 2 hours. They're not water polo kids. They're not water polo. What was so cool is they showed
how many of these kids became Navy SEALs.
Dude, you see every single kid is like 6 to 8 pack back then.
Wow.
And it was so impressive, like blow your mind. They have like a 12-minute routine or something like that they do. They put years later NFL guys through it, and they could barely finish their like 12-minute routine that they would do every day as a warm-up. These are kids. And so it's just so fascinating how far we've gotten. But what the cool thing is they interviewed so many of those people who went to that school back then, and then they interviewed them later in their life. And they show how many of them have continued and maintained, like 80-year-old, whatever these guys' ages were. And it was so beautiful and so cool. And those testing in that community that they built back then, one gal, it was so interesting. She started just bawling and crying because they closed the school down, or they closed the program down like right before she could finish the test. And she just got it on the last day. And every time she thinks about it, she just starts crying. And it's just so funny. But to see these guys later in life, how healthy and how vital they are and how far we've gotten, it's such a neat look. And it's called the motivation factor. But if you just look at what these kids had to do at baseline, it was insane.
So, man, how far have we come? Because, I mean, from what I understand, what I've read and what I've heard is physical education is the first thing that gets cut in school, right? It's the thing that if you're suffering at history or math or something like that, then you got to spend more time doing that, less time moving. Man, I don't know if I guess I'll just state what I think is obvious, which is the whole country is getting really out of shape. I don't think that's news to anybody. Or why do you think that is?
Man, so many. What was interesting going back to that documentary. So one thing there's also, I don't know if they'll show this my client sent me this folder of videos. There's actually a video of why they stopped it. Like why did they, stop running this education that other schools all around the country wanted to implement it. And I guess what had happened is the transition, at least that happened as soon as Vietnam occurred. When we came out of Vietnam, the only way that you can run a system like that, and they showed another country, don't quote me, it's some of the country in the Netherlands, one of those countries there, right? They ran it too, but they ran this type of education system, PE, with like 1,000 people, and they show 1,000 people plus on a football field, all like side by side, equal distance apart. Everyone's doing it in sync. It's beautiful. But the only way that you can run something that's scalable and something that organizes through a military structure, right? That type of organization, that type of. So I guess from my understanding, anything after the Vietnam War that represented or that had any semblance of military, they wanted to cut. So they stopped all of that. So,
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because, I mean, school basically came out of the whole point of school in the beginning was the royalty wanted to figure out a way to indoctrinate the poor people so that they would fight for them. So it's, I mean, that's pretty much where the whole premise of school started. I want to say it was the Prussians. And because I mean, school being available to everybody is pretty new. If you think about it, if you look at human history, I mean, school was only available to the wealthy until I don't know, 100, 200 years ago, here in the United States. I remember reading books about kids in the like 1800s, and they would go to school to like third, fourth grade, and they'd start working or something,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you're a boy, you're 10, 11, 12 years old. Yeah, you're gonna go start farming now. So that's really, really interesting. Well, I guess so. My question is then, how do we do both, right? How do we create autonomy and sovereignty in an individual by not needing to put them in military lines on a football field or whatever, but also encourage people to take on physical activity?
Yeah. I
I don't
think,
know if you, these are big. I'm like, hey, Mike, here's these big cultural problems. Let's see if
yeah.
we can solve them on
Yeah,
today's
let's solve
show.
them right here, right now. Two things come up for me, right? Like, um, yeah. So the first thing is that as I've grown older, like I've really realized the importance of play, right?
Mm.
And like how that when that's missing in my life, how everything just feels so much harder and I don't want to do it. And so the first thing that comes up is like when you look at school systems, whether it's Steiner school systems or I think they're called what, like nature schools or forest schools. I had a few friends that taught in those ways, and like it's amazing to hear their education system. Like these kids are outside all day. They're learning via games. They're not freaking sitting down. They're eating good food. Half their day is again outside learning about the plants. And so I think, incorporating more play at any level and then potentially elements of a system that's not what we have today can be helpful. But then that documentary, or maybe it was either that or my client had said something that was really stuck with me because I would have said, you know, like play more to get healthy. Like that would have been like something I would have said. The interesting thing is we've gotten so far out of balance, so far away from a baseline of acceptable health. There's also another way to think of it. Like you need to get healthy. You need to get fit in order to play because we have so many kids that have like they can't even forget, jogging 30 feet, it's just like just getting off the couch is hard and then people are winded. So it's interesting. I think there's some level of combination of both, but I didn't thought about like we're such a far departure that now we have to get fit in order to play and enjoy play.
Yeah, we see this with adults. So this is what I see play out in regard to play is, we have a very masculine culture, which means we love structure. Like we love structure. So play becomes difficult because play is like, I don't know, I don't want to look silly I think I know I was this way. It had been so long since I had truly let go and played. I didn't even know what it felt like or what it looked like, or it did seem foreign and I had to relearn how to do it. But one of the things that I think is helpful with learning how to play is there's a really good example is the flow culture we have in fitness, right? So we have like Leo Savage is one of these guys. We have a lot of the animal flow folks. Flow is something that I know a lot of the coaches, the strong coach embrace. And the thing about flow is it's dependent on structure to be done well, right? You have to know the steps. You have to know you have to know the moves first before you can flow. Or like if you're a martial artist, before you can step into a fight and not just throw the most terrible punches, you have to throw 10,000 great punches in a structured environment with someone coaching you and all that kind of stuff. And so we see this at different levels, which is, look, I get it. If you're a 30-year-old adult and you forgot how to play, I get it. You sat in a chair at school for 8 hours a day, then you went to college, and then even if you played a sport, you weren't really playing. It was so structured, and then you go into the workforce, and you got to be there at a certain time, and you're going from one box to another box. It's as structured as it gets. And then when it comes time, someone says, "Hey, let's play." It's like it can be confusing and jarring, like, oh shit. And something like, teaching people some structure to teach them how to flow and giving them that space can be really, really beneficial. And if this is happening, we're witnessing this with adults who are 25, 20 years old, and we're having to teach kids, like what you're saying is you basically have to teach them how to play again. It's like, here's how you swing on a swing. Here's how you like play hopscotch or what the fuck, I don't know. Here's how you use a hula hoop. But yeah, it's like type 2 diabetes was something that only adults got. They were only concerned for a long time. It's like, well, if you're not 40 years old, you're not getting type 2 diabetes, right? But now we have 8-year-olds that have type 2 diabetes. It's nuts. Completely avoidable. And yet it's normal for our culture.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, right now, shining the light brighter than ever on that. You know, it's like, it's just, it's for, I mean, a lot of it's a question for me of just mindset. It's like, what we have the opportunity, you can't go anywhere. It's like, now's the time to get outside. Like you're not going to work. You know, if you're working from home. Like this is a great opportunity for families to, you know, like it is in a lot of cases, it's creating much stronger bonds. And in some cases, it's creating further bonds, you know, between husband and wife but now can be an amazing opportunity to play with your kids, take them out, teach them how to play yourself. Yeah, it just depends how you look at it, you know?
Yeah. So you had, earlier you said you had a lot of time to reflect. So what are the findings of your reflection?
Ooh, this is good. This is good for me to verbalize this and energize. So, man, I was traveling almost 2 weeks a month before, hustling, like teaching, you know, building my brand. First biggest realization is I don't need to do that. And actually, I don't really want to do that anymore. I love traveling, but I want to travel like 1/10 the amount. I have a comfortable home, like it's quiet. I got a yard. I'm actually realizing that I'm really enjoying. I never thought I would enjoy online interaction as much as I do, but I've never given myself the space to even think about that or even put myself out there. And like I said earlier, I got so much nourishment from those 30 days of lives, and I'm still going live, that I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And I just hop on the camera and then turn it off, and you get paid. Like, yeah, like, the first thing is I don't want to travel nearly as much as I did. The second thing is I'm really seeing that I can make it working from home and building online programs. The other thing too is because I've been traveling so much and I always kept myself so busy that I've honestly, like, even at, I mean, at honestly a very personal level, like I've never created space for a relationship. Like I've maybe would have always said like I would like to share what I'm doing with someone and get to jive with someone and have some fun. But it's like I never had created the space. And now I'm like, wow, not only has it shown me that that's something that I'm really interested in bringing in, but also I'm creating the space now by working from home and not traveling 2 weeks a month to allow that to come in. So that's been another realization that's been really cool. I'm going to get a dog. So I'm so stoked about it. I borrowed my brother's dog for a few weeks. And I was like, I need a companion. And so I just gave her back. And now I'm going to be putting my name at like one of the rescues or humane societies and looking for a dog. So those are kind of the three biggest: personal and professional.
I heard there was a shortage of dogs.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. There was, I remember somebody was trying to go get a dog and they were like, yeah, I guess the dog dealer or whatever you call them, said that all the dogs have been snagged up during this time because people are lonely.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. So then after COVID, unfortunately, there's probably going to be like, once people realize what they've gotten themselves into and they go back. Maybe.
I think so. This whole thing. So this is when I look at my own life and I look at how long it takes for me to change my way of being. right? Like how I am being in the world. Uh, I'm looking at 6 to 12 weeks. All right. 6 to 12 weeks of this thing. One of which was boot camp, right? I got it in the military, I go in the Navy, I do boot camp. I think it was 8 or 9 weeks when I went through. After boot camp, I was different. My family saw me. They were like, dude, you're so serious. Uh, and I was a very slow eater before I would join the Navy, and then I became a very fast eater. But there were quite a few things where my family, they came and visited me after I graduated boot camp, and they were in awe of how Michael was different. And but I mean, there was a 6 month deployment in there. There was there's been a few different times in my life where there was a dramatic shift in my lifestyle. And I noticed in about 6 to 12 weeks, it becomes normal. It becomes normal. I'm starting to have that experience with this. And I bet a lot of people are having that experience. So a lot of people who got dogs may chill the fuck out. And what you're also experiencing less travel right now. And you've reflected and realized, oh, I'm going to travel less overall. I imagine that a lot of people are going to travel less and have dogs after this.
Oh, and just that's going to increase the play, and just that's going
It's good for us. It's
Yeah.
good for us in
Oh,
that way. Yeah.
Dogs are amazing, man. Dogs are
Yeah.
cool.
I went for a walk the other day and I saw this dog and it walked up right next. It was a lab, walked up next to me and just being friendly. I was like, oh my gosh, that feels good. And I visualized myself with a dog, and then I realized I was like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Um I imagine I'll travel less in the future based on this. I've really enjoyed being in one spot as long as I've been in one spot in over a year.
Wow.
I mentioned that to a few friends and they laughed in my face. Because they're like, there's no way. The moment the border opens up, you're out. And I said, yeah. And they said, well, we'll see a month after that what happens. I go, oh, okay. That's an accurate way of assessing the situation. Let's talk about kettlebell lifestyle. What inspired you to do it? What inspired you to dig into that program? Because you had other programs too.
Yeah. So like Kettlebell Lifestyle is a complementary program to my other one called Mastering the Kettlebell, which that one I would say is more for like the trainer. You know, it's got assessments on every single lift, every single there's like 500 videos in the program. Every single common error on every lift you can think about, program design, like that's a really deep resource. Kettlebell Lifestyle is very deep, but it's different. So there's, I would say, two main inspirations for why I kind of, two to three. The first thing is one, just having been injured so many times in my life competing at a high level. And it wasn't until I started working with our buddy Paul Check. And, you know, I went through a process of working with him for 2.5 years, working on every single level. Even though I went to him to help heal a physical issue, an orthopedic injury in my left arm, you know, there's no way you can coach with Paul and he's not going to look at every other aspect of your being, of your relationships, of how you care for yourself. And so during that process, one of the things that I found was, one, I was way less beat up than I ever was. I was able to train and compete at a high level, and not only just do that, but I was able to recover faster and then reach higher levels. And I was actually, as I was competing more, I was almost feeling better and better and better. And one of the tools he would use, one of the many, was this thing called a daily readiness assessment. So every single morning I'd fill out paperwork. He would have a Google sheet to it so he could kind of see where I was. And, you know, heart rate variability was one of the factors, but it's looking at limbic emotional stress. It's looking at hormonal stress, musculoskeletal system stress, but it's all via self-check-in, right? And I got so much value out of that. Like, I do like the biofeedback tools and the watches and stuff, but I feel like they can be a crutch. And so Paul was very big about teaching me an intuitive system of how to care for my body and know how hard to push and how hard not to. So that was the first thing, was like wanting to create some type of system that health was as equal as of importance to performance. And it taught someone a way to modify their training based off of how they're feeling in order, how hard should I go? How hard should I not? Should I do active meditation? What to do on each day? Then I had a client of mine, the same guy with the motivation factor, great dude. He's a black belt in jujitsu, very high level, but he's had like 6 knee surgeries, I think like 7 hip surgeries. And so we were working, and he's intense. Like, the dude is intense. He trains his kids like the motivation factor. And like, yeah, it's pretty amazing. But one of the biggest things I've had to work with him on is like understanding like the gas pedal can't be floored all the time. And so a lot of times, I would ask him like, what do you want out of a program? He's like, dude, Mike, I've gotten injured so many times. I've had so many surgeries. I call you because I tell you what should I do. And then you ask me these questions, and then I somehow know the answer. But basically, I wanted to give people that experience, because the goal for kettlebell lifestyle. It is longevity. Even when I surveyed my list, overwhelming people wanted a workout program with a longevity focus. And then when I thought and I reflected and meditated, it took me 3 months just to create 7 workouts in the program. Like,
wow.
there's so much thought, because, for example, on that topic, on every workout day, you fill out, it takes 20 seconds, a training readiness assessment. So it looks at gut health, sleep, motivation level, stress level. It looks over joint soreness, and it has questions to ask you and check in with yourself. And based off of what you fill in, your program modifies. So there's a level 1, a level 2 option, but on every program, every 7 program, there's 5 levels of modifications based off of how you're feeling. And there's breath work and active meditation. So again, the big thing is, my mission is to build 10,000 balanced warriors and change the way trainers are looked at today. So we've got doctors, chiros, we've got massage therapists in the program, dentists, people that aren't even trainers, but also trainers, and everyone's learning from each other. So that was kind of the motivation, is to support people long-term with creating better health and high performance.
Sounds like there's a community aspect. How's that working?
Dude, the community, it's like the community. And again, I never thought I would enjoy this, because social media always really stressed me out. But one of the things, actually something I learned from you, so thank you for that, is checking in with the types of conversations I am having and how are they feeling, and or whether it's a business deal or a conversation. And one of the things I realized was, those conversations that I was having, the ones that didn't like, that drained me, were just the wrong conversations, or with the wrong group of people. And this community is like I could talk about this stuff in my sleep, and get emotional, and just like, the community. We have a Facebook group, and then I'm doing weekly coaching calls for 10 weeks right now for the founding group. And man, it's lighting me up, and it's really the fuel motivating me to keep going, because it is really making a difference.
Yeah. What kind of people are you attracting? You listed some off, but I'm curious. Somebody who it sounds like someone who wants a more thoughtful approach to kettlebell training. So I'm wondering what kind of person comes in, and do they get what they expect, or what's a common surprise that people come in with?
Yeah, so that's a great question, man. So let's first say who the program's not for. Okay.
Okay.
The program's definitely not for someone who just wants to get their ass kicked and wants arbitrary workouts. Like, the programming is phased. I believe personally, as a coach, and this is where I have to coach a lot of people on, like, you have to earn your way into kettlebells, right? So you can't, like, unless you've got experience or technical, whatever, you can't try and pick up a kettlebell and do a 5-minute snatch test. Like, you're going to wreck yourself, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I teach a phased approach. So there's an on-ramp phase to understand where workouts isn't even the priority. It's about balancing your body, stretching, working in, breath work, morning routines, developing those rituals with intention. Then after that, then we do a corrective or just a base foundational phase. Then phase 2 and 3, then it gets sexy. Then we talk about conditioning, skill development, performance, but you got to put in at least 3 weeks of building the body. So one of the things is I set the tone really early when people come in. So who's it not for? Those that want arbitrary workouts and those uninterested in learning the whys and having a more thoughtful or a wellness approach to their training. When people first come in, my first video is like 6 minutes, and I talk about a firefighter that I worked with. I worked with 18 firefighters last year as part of this fitness and health initiative to revamp the health and wellness of first responders. And there was one guy, he was like a CrossFitter, super fit, and he was always getting injured over the years. But basically, he was expressing his frustration. I was training those guys for 6 months and did assessments on all of them. And when I was training, he was expressing some frustration. He's like, man, I've never not worked out this much. Like you're telling me to back off and listen to my body and modify this and focus on stretching. And I'm like, dude, trust the process. Like, show up and trust the process. I got you. Literally, the testimonial at the end of month 1, just month 1, which was just the corrective foundations, get your body in balance phase. He's like, I've never felt this good. Now I understand why I was getting injured and how much I was actually overtraining. But unless you have that, you pull yourself out of it, you sometimes need that shock. So I set the tone way up front about not only how the phases are, but when you first come in, you've got, I think it's 13 questions that are like interesting questions, like how comfortable are you feel with yourself when you're alone? There's questions like on gut.
I remember that one. I went through the questionnaire. I was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah. There's questions on, fitness level, kettlebell stuff. There's also posture stuff. So the purpose of the questionnaire is threefold. One, of course, it sets the tone of really how different the program is and lets you know, like, hey, I'm not just going to snatch 5 minutes continuously. But every question, one, it gives you the suggested kettlebell level. And I give people context because out of all the workshops I've taught, and I say this honestly and again humbly, but like 99% of the people that I've asked what level you are, or are you familiar with the swing? Do you feel comfortable with it? Have an unrealistic idea of where they are where they think they are and where they are. And then I'm looking at my head and I'm just like, in every single workshop, when I've had meetings with the owners, like, how can I support your trainers, your staff, whatever? He's like, oh man, we're good. Let's do this, snatch protocol and this. I'm like, okay. So I write my outline, I'm ready to go. And then I get there and I'm like, yo, like, we need to dial this thing back 8 levels right now.
Yeah.
So in the questionnaire, I give people context. Like, I give pictures in terms of what is good swing technique, squat technique, overhead pressing. What's the criteria? So, and that's the same thing with sleep and posture. I've got not only questions, but context around them. So the second big thing is you're developing a much deeper level of self-awareness. Just by going through the process, I've heard the program is worth it, the whole program, just from the questionnaire. So there's that. And then the other thing too is I've got 11 content contributors, Paul Check, Mark England on goal setting. I've got a few of Paul's faculty, dietitians, our buddy Brooks Meadows.
Oh, nice.
Each one I've kind of selected for a specific reason to support people along their journey. So based off of what they fill out in the questionnaire, if they're struggling with sleep, you're going to get a custom video from Paul Check on sleep. We start off with goal setting. So everyone gets a 20-minute interview and PDF from me and Mark England. So along the way, you're supported based off of where you need it. So when you get to performance phase, and this is what fires me up, is like, you take these high powered movements like a snatch or a swing, but if you're eating a shitty diet and your gut's super inflamed, there's no way you're going to be able to stabilize your core. And so therefore the risk to the spine goes way up. So if we can identify, okay, you have some gut issues and maybe, it's it's online, so it's not perfect, but at least it supports people where they're at. So if we can work on your diet, your nutrition, getting you quality food in, making sure you're drinking water, you're sleeping, by the time you get 5 weeks in and you hit the last 3 weeks of performance, dude, it's going to be just nasty. Like, it's going to be awesome. So that's a little bit of how it's, how it's structured.
Can you repeat the gut health impacting joint health. Uh,
Yeah.
that little wisdom you dropped there, I want to bring people back right on that.
Yeah, that's on. I mean, that's absolutely huge. So, I mean, there's a few ways we can look at it. So every organ and gland is connected and reflexes into a specific muscle complex, because the way the organs express pain, for example, is slightly different than muscle pain. So the stomach, as an example, and I'll use myself as an example, the stomach is on the same channel as the left shoulder. It's on like a reflex loop. It's a reflex relationship. The liver's on the same channel as the right shoulder. And so a lot of times I had left shoulder issues, but if we just treat it from a mechanical lens, like, oh my God, I need to do this stretch or this strengthener, but we don't look at the deeper levels of what's going on, what oftentimes can be showing up as a shoulder issue is actually driven by the stomach and the gut. So what'll happen is, and I tested this with a hand dynamometer with Paul, I would drink coffee and I had fungal and parasite issues for years. And when I would drink coffee, we would check my grip and it would actually get worse because it was borrowing energy from that resource. And so you can also think of like when ladies are on their cycle, like where typically do they feel like soreness? It's usually going to be their lower back, because the reproductive organs reflex into the muscles of that area and they express pain essentially or soreness from them. So when you eat an inflammatory diet, it creates swelling, right? It needs space. And so what happens is when you eat an inflammatory diet, this is also why when women are on their cycle, at certain points of their cycle, it's not the wisest to weight train because they can't stabilize. So when you have that inflammation, it down regulates or starts turning off the inner unit, which is like the muscles that actually stabilize the spine. Your six pack stabilizes it, but more like larger gross movement. The deeper stabilizers, like your TVA for the coaches, your diaphragm, your pelvic floor, your multifidus, those are the ones that really stabilize the spine. So when you eat an inflammatory diet or you're eating stuff you shouldn't be eating, it's going to turn off those things, because at a survival level, the organs and the glands are way more important than the muscles, and they will do whatever it takes to protect your body, which is also why injuries happen. It's like part of it is to slow you down so that you can continue, or overtraining. Those are all control systems in the body. So when you
I used to get upset. It's like, oh, I'm getting sore. I'm not recovering so fast. And I got out of bed last week, and I've been trail running a lot. And I go, shit, man, my Achilles tendon in my left leg is a little tender this morning. And I was talking to my housemate, and he was like, give me recommendations on how to like make it better. Said a couple things. I was like, I just need to chill the fuck out. That's my body telling me to, I haven't been trail running a lot until 6 weeks ago. And now I'm just all over the place. I'm all over the mountains. So, but it took me years to learn, oh, it's just my body telling me to slow the fuck down.
Yeah, totally. And you can do like, I mean, I probably wouldn't do this unless you're familiar with a Swiss ball, but like try to eat something like super crappy, right? Eat like, I don't know, just enjoy yourself, pizza, ice cream, whatever, and hop on a Swiss ball. Just do it kneeling. You don't have to do it standing, but hop on a Swiss ball, start moving around and just feel what it's like to have the ball underneath you. And then have a day when you just feel dialed in, like you had a good night's sleep and you ate well, how much more integrated you feel. And so there's a massive correlation to that thing. And that's usually a big missing element, like huge.
Yeah. So there's a couple things I really appreciate about you as a coach is, one, the holistic thing, right? And prime example of what we were just talking about, considering the glands and organs and musculoskeletal function. And then the other thing is an integrated approach, which a lot of people might interchange those two, and I see them slightly different. An integrated approach is being able to, when I think about holistic, I think about looking at the big picture. When I think about integration, I think about transcending and including. And so most coaches, like as you go through your stages of development and you look back, most coaches judge where they came from. Uh, Basically like, oh, macros are dumb or something like that. Once someone like gets really into like food quality, like macros are dumb. And then, but every coach gets to a point where you go like, well, actually macros are important, but so is food quality. And so is these dozen other things. And I see the value in each one of them. I understand that people need to go through this. So it's also obvious that you have that as well. I love that. To me, people are buying a kettlebell program. I imagine that at the core of the desire to get into the program is likely, man, I am tired of getting beat up. I know that all my injuries are making it where I can't be this shredded dude and get all the ladies or keep up with my kids or whatever it is, and I've tried all these other programs, and so I'm going to try this one. This one looks different, and I'm going to do it. And then people get in, and then you give them what they want. I mean, people are getting the workouts. They're getting really well thought out workouts that are going to make them fit and strong, maybe the strongest they've ever been. And yet you're giving them what they need as well. It's like, oh, the program caused me to reflect on how I feel today. Holy shit. How often do people do that? Almost never. It's one of the most valuable things an athlete can learn. But if you try to sell them on that, they're going to probably flip you the bird and run the other way. So I know I would have 10 years ago. And so maybe, I don't know. I also have flashbacks at times where I rewind 10 or 15 years ago, and I have memories of a coach telling me something that I totally disregarded. And then, because I'm like, it always happens when someone asks me, he's like, what would you go back and tell yourself 10 years ago? I'm like, there was probably someone telling me that shit and I wasn't listening. So I really appreciate that when I look at you, I see someone who's really good at selling people what they want, giving them what they need, and then also just loving all of it equally is the way I'm experiencing it. So with all that being said, what's it look like on your sales page when somebody gets on your website and is thinking about getting into the program? What are your selling points? What causes people to click the button?
I mean, the biggest thing, I mean, for sure, like the features that it's modifiable and it meets you where you're at. I mean, those are huge, but I mean, really it's people wanting just the right people that are being attracted, who want that like they want to do whatever it is that they love for years to come. And so a lot of people everyone's coming because it's got so many elements. There's some people that just want it just for the morning routines. And the morning routines are literally, and I've been telling this to people and it's already showing up in people's results. Like these are morning routines that I've like the morning routine number 1 for phase 1. It's what I've done the last almost 12 months consistently every day. And it's like just doing, and you don't have to do it every day, but if you did 3 days a week, the morning routines have the power to change your life. Warming up the spine, breath work in the morning, easy, simple stuff. I give you like 3 exercises and it changes. So some people are looking for that. Some people want the workouts and a lot of people want to understand like the phasing of training and how I kind of approach training, because I've never done a workout program before, because I honestly I couldn't get behind it. I was like, I couldn't visualize or dream up. And then I was like, this opportunity came and I just told my developer, I was like, yo, this is what we need to do. Let's make it happen. So everyone's coming into it for different reasons, but a big selling point is the fact that the program does the personalization component. Because as an example, I mentioned how you get your training readiness assessment that governs your training, but also I take you through flexibility stretches, like the top 10 that I see are most important for specifically kettlebell lifting. And not only do I take you through all that, but I have you go through a test. And so you take your test and you rate and rank not only like what your restriction is on each side of the body for every stretch, but I've also got programmed my priorities on the back end. So you get kicked out a personalized stretching program that you can do every single day in 12 to 15 minutes. And every phase you retest and you revamp your test. I mean, The other big selling point is, especially right now, bro, the whole program, and this was what was really hard from a programming perspective, the whole program can be done with just one bell, a single bell. Not like if you had 5, an 8, a 12, a 16. So it's way more a conditioning and muscular endurance program, but legitimately, and I give you my recommendations, if all you can afford right now is one 12-kilo bell,
Or
you
get your hands on.
get your hands on. Yeah, I just spoke with Alico and they're sold out, I think, till July and August.
No. I talked to them a couple of weeks ago and I was like, yeah, the kettlebells yet? And he goes, not yet. We're sourcing as fast as we can.
But with whatever you
Hey guys, I've got a kettlebell for sale. I've got a few kettlebells for sale. If you want them, they're $5,000 a piece.
worth it.
That's right.
Value. But just with one bell, if you're on a budget, I give you my recommendation. You can do the whole 9+ weeks of training. It was designed because of the dynamic nature. It's designed to be gone through multiple times, not just once. So yeah, it's a unique program for sure.
What a cool approach. Can you talk us through how you launched a beta program and just how the process has been? Oh, this is good. Tell us, I'm like remembering, I'm like, what have we done with Mike? Oh yeah. Tell us about how you launched Kettlebell Mastery
Okay.
versus how you launched Kettlebell Lifestyle.
Yeah. So my first program, and like, man, talking about if you could talk to your former self, like I go through that with this stuff. That program took me 13 months of full-time work. And I was like, this is going to be my great contribution to the industry. And it's going to, and it's a really good program. It's, again, over 500 videos. It's incredibly in-depth. It's like 3 certifications for a trainer in one, and really good. But I spent about 95% of my time before releasing it on the content, on like the education and like the structure, all that stuff, and about 5% on the marketing. And as I'm still learning how to sell that program, and Kettlebell Lifestyle is a great stepping stone at a lower price point to that. And that was one of also part of the inspiration was talking to you. And when we were discussing in the group, like, I need a lower priced offering to get people into that program. So, the program, a lot of it had sold through affiliates, but not so much from my efforts. So I've got some great networks and they were great to help. But, that program still hasn't reached its potential. It's reached like 1/10 of its potential, 1/20th. Whereas Kettlebell Lifestyle, so I sold higher price point, but I had sold 8 pre-orders, and I'll just be fully honest and transparent. Kettlebell, that was Mastering the Kettlebell. Kettlebell Lifestyle comes around and it's like 60+% before the pre-order beta launch. So before I even had a program, I spent about 60 to 70% on the marketing. And what I found is not only did that help me decide on what the program was going to be like, so it's exactly for the person who is going to appreciate my craziness. Like, it's exactly the type of program for the right person. But we sold 110 in a matter of a little over a week and a half on pre-orders. So what did that do? That confirmed that, holy shit, I do have something that can benefit and help people that people want. The other thing, dude, getting a few G's in the bank really helps when you have, like, as you can imagine, like this program from a filming perspective to an app development, because it's all custom, costs a lot. And so to have money in before I've even really started the development, because I remember you had told me wait until I think it was like wait until I have like 20 or 30 sales before I give the go ahead to my developer. And that was huge. We sold, over 100 in a matter of days. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go all in on this now. So even just from a confidence standpoint, because to be honest, like one of the things that broke my heart, and again, more and more people are getting into mastering the kettlebell. But one of the things as a teacher, it's like, granted, I want to be proud of what I put out. Like, that's really important. Like, I want to do good work, and that means a lot to me, and I want to help people. But the biggest thing is, like, I want fucking people to get results. And if no one goes through the program because the marketing wasn't on point and they didn't even know I had it or what it's about. That's the thing that has brought me to tears multiple times about my first program. Like, I'm still going to be learning how to sell it, but like, I create this great program. I spend 13 months on it. There's 500 videos, but it's like, if no one sees it or no one knows it exists or it can help them, why all the work? So now it's like, it's a complete mindset shift where the majority of the time early on is spent on the marketing and then on the development. And what I really geek out is on the content. So it's like, even though that takes a lot of time and a lot of thought, that's really where my skill set is. So I was always gravitating to my strengths and not really understanding, dude, like, you need to fill in these holes. Otherwise, no one's going to get to see your program.
Yeah. I think that's, it's common in every single business in every industry, which is people, one of the things that I learned, it wasn't at the beginning of my journey. It was years after being an entrepreneur. I learned that marketing is product development. And if you're doing product development inside of a silo, inside of a bubble, without getting the input from the people who are going to buy it, like, what are you doing? Like, it's like product masturbation. So it's like, or do you want to go on a date? Like, that's the difference. And the date pays you.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So I mean, how is this approach? So shifting your approach to this, how's that impact you as a coach going forward?
Well, for sure, any program I ever create, I'm going to use the same model for sure. That's for sure. But I tell you what, like, this whole approach and putting as much just heart and love into the program as I have, like, it's really in the results. Honestly, the results. Like, I've really realized that, like, it is possible to have an online business that thrives, and it is possible to stay in like, one of the reasons why I've always been against online programs for me personally is because, like, I didn't feel there was a level of personalization and connection to the person. Like, I love getting in front of someone. I love, like, feeling their energy and teaching them and seeing them succeed. And I wasn't sure it would translate to online. And, like, my experience right now is that it very well does. And it just depends on your approach. And it's just, yeah, the scalability and the impact can be so much greater by going online. And again, I never thought I'd be the person to say that, but it's surprising me. And again, I'm excited to do more of it. And just really, but before I create anything new for a long time, we're getting this puppy out. Yeah, no new content unless it's free. Unless it's I'll be giving a bunch of free stuff. 30 days of coaching. Go to my Facebook group. You get that for free. But yeah,
30 days of coaching.
So I took all those 30 days of lives, which is over 30 hours, and I'm still going live once a week. And man, people are geniuses. Like, I've got amazing community, and one guy, just amazing, beautiful soul. He's like, hey, I downloaded all of your Instagrams that had disappeared. I don't know how he did it. They're gone after 24 hours. He got the last 30 days, downloaded them without comments, and created a Facebook group for me. So Team Salemi is a free Facebook group. So I've got 30 hours of meditation, kettlebell training, workouts, Q&A for like hours, guest speakers. So if anyone wants that, it's free. It's a private group, but just ask to come in, and I'm happy to let you in. Team Salemi on Facebook, and you can get over 30 hours of free coaching.
Brilliant. Yeah. Should people go anywhere else? I was about to ask you, like, where do people go to find more of your stuff? Or is that
that in Instagram, I'm more active. But that Facebook group, once a week, I'll just keep re-uploading new stuff.
Yeah. Last question. What's been your experience with the mastermind? Since we last, because we chopped it up. Was it the last time? Was it Spartan in Tahoe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So you had just joined at that point.
I joined at the Strong Coach Summit last year.
Yeah, but you were still new.
Yeah.
Like you were just a couple months in. Is that right? Yes. Time. I can do time. What's it been like? It's been like 6 months now.
Yeah, man. I will say in the last since COVID, like I mean, I've been enjoying the mastermind. Obviously, like it's been a massive influence on kettlebell lifestyle, like the success of the pre-orders, how it's been created, the support system, like for sure, it's been huge. And what I will say is now during this time, I am getting so much value during COVID because nobody knows what, like, there's so much uncertainty. Like, it's everything's so crazy that I don't know what's going. Like, I'm in my computer working on kettlebell lifestyle. Aside from checking the news from time to time to see when the shelter in place and what's going on, like I'm just working. And but I've got all my friends in like the industry. All my workshops are closed, and friggin' my friends, their gyms are not going to be open for 6 months, or some of them are having to close down. So there's so much turmoil in the industry. And so right now, I would say I'm getting the most value that I ever have because I don't know where to go. So to have someone like you in the group, like a group of coaches, like that's my news. That's like my news. And like, again, how I'm going to pivot my business and what should I focus on? And really just seeing all the opportunities. Like there's so many opportunities. It's more just choosing the right ones. So as opposed to freaking out, it's like, I'm excited. Like that's what I was saying. I'm ready for this thing. And I got the support system to help me navigate it. And so if there is something I'm unsure about or uncertain, so it's been great, man, to be honest. And I thank you guys so much, you and Val, especially, and Mark. But right now is like when I'm just like chomping at the bit just to hear, and to get support in navigating these waters.
Oh, yeah, thank you. It has been cool because we have coaches that are from all over the world. And so, and everyone's going through similar stuff, but also different. We have somebody in Australia, someone else in Jordan, and then all over the United States. And it is interesting getting news from everybody too, getting updates of like what's working for this coach, what's working for that coach, because everyone did something slightly different. We were all communicating as we were making pivots and stuff like that, but every coach has got different skills, and someone's more like this and someone else is more like that. They have different strengths and weaknesses. And it was cool to watch. I learned a lot. I've learned a ton in the last 6 weeks. I've been in hyperspeed of learning. Did you watch Dragon Ball Z?
When I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I went into like the chamber. I went to train and become a Super Saiyan. So it does. It feels like I stepped outside of time. I'm not missing anything. And I'm working on me. I'm really healthy. And I'm looking at the world and I'm looking at business and I'm going, this is really, really peculiar. What I'm watching is everybody, all the stuff that people are like, the fear that's sitting below the surface. This whole situation has brought a lot of that fear bubbled up to where people are now going, ugh. It's coming out their mouth. The stuff that they used to keep to themselves or even hide from themselves is now like all the stuff in the shadows is starting to emerge, which is, if you know anything about marketing, is a really beautiful place to be. Sounds like, oh, the darkness is coming up. So yeah, well, the shadows are a lot of times of what are driving unconscious behavior. It's driving behavior, and we don't know why we do certain things. But now what we're witnessing is a lot of behaviors are becoming more obvious. It's like, oh, they're doing this because of that. They're afraid of this. And most behaviors driven by fear. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And even just to add to what we were sharing earlier, like I don't want to give an unreal like an idea of like the process. Like, trust me, I've been laid out on the ground multiple times, just like what in the world am I doing? What am I going to do? Like I've had for sure my low moments, for sure, and stress. But at the end of the day, it's like the overall bigger picture is one of seeing the opportunity and then just being ready and willing to do the work to bring that opportunity forth to fruition.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah. What was your favorite meltdown?
Dude,
I did say last question earlier, but now I'm curious. You know how I am. Curiosity gets me.
man, the meltdown is, well, I've had multiple meltdowns like in this like in this time when it's so appropriate to have online programs. I've had so many issues when doing a custom program and a custom site, that from my web developer getting sick to my video guy moving to a farm so he could be with his family, which takes like 5 hours to upload and export one video, to all these things. And like, I just remember just like being right behind this desk and curling up in a ball and putting a blanket over me and just like, and just waiting just all night, just not going to sleep, just trying to wait for communications. And just like, is this thing ever gonna really happen? And like, am I actually gonna make this stuff? And like, my income's gone. And so yeah, it's just rolling up into a ball on this
I
floor.
never saw you post that on Instagram.
Yeah, just
Yeah, it's a good reminder. I think a lot of times people look at our lives and go, wow, how glamorous. And you know what? It is. It's very glamorous. And there's also those moments where you're in the floor crying because it does feel like the world is crumbling down around you. And those are not the times where I think I should grab my phone and snap a selfie and announce to the world that I'm having a hard day.
yeah, 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 yeah. And the people who were like I'd bring it up. No, I wouldn't dwell on it, but I would tell people on my lives and stuff, like I like keep people updated and what's been going on. But man, it was just a lesson to, like, I think we all like control at some level. And there's so many factors. I had to do an emergency reshoot right the day before we were going to launch because something happened. Then again, the developer getting sick, COVID, my video guy. Dude, it's been like, I don't even know what to do other than throw my hands up. Like at points when the thing was delayed and stuff, I'm just like, I have to surrender to this because this is out of my hands, out of my control. So it's been a massive experience and learning experience in terms of surrendering to the process. I told the group in my group coaching call, like I tell you guys to trust the process, trust me, trust the process. You know, you don't know if this is going to work, whatever. And then, I need to take a little bit of my own medicine there and just trust what's happening, because, it's not due to a lack of effort. It's due to lack of factors outside of my control. So that's where I've struggled with the most, is like surrendering to it, trusting it when all I want to do is just, control every aspect of it. That's when had most of the challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're 6 weeks in. You've launched your program to the beta. Everything's been going great. So,
Oh, dude.
I mean, not everything's going great, but the results are now great.
Dude, it was all worth it and then some. And then some. Like, yeah, I would do it, I would do it again. I'd probably do things differently in certain areas, but I would go through it again in a heartbeat. It was well worth it.
Dope. All right, one more time. Where do people find you?
At mike.salemi on Instagram. If you guys want to check out Kettlebell Lifestyle, go to kettlebelllifestyle.com. And then if you want to get the 30 days or 30 plus hours, 35 hours of coaching on every aspect, taste of what I do, from meditation to workouts to band training, bell training, it's all free. Go to Team Salemi on Facebook. I'll let you in the group, and you'll get to also experience what type of rad community we have, because we got some amazing people in there too. So check us out.
Right on. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, brother.